In the previous video, we talked about exponential function with a base b, and I make two graphs, one for y equals to 2 raised to the x power, the other one is y equals to 2 raised to the negative x power, and then we fully discussed these two, every single detail in these two functions. So 2 raised to the x is an increasing function, 2 raised to the negative x is a decreasing exponential function. They both have a y-intercept at 0, 1 for both functions. The domain is all real numbers. The range is y greater than 0. There is no vertical asymptote, and the horizontal asymptote is y equals to 0. And then in this video, I would like to talk about base E. This is extremely important. So when you study a business, psychology, economics, so even though you go for engineering, math, and science, you will see the exponential function e to the x. This function is so popular and so important. As long as your major requires some math, even though you go for probability, statistics, those type of subjects, you will have to use the exponential function base e because it is so powerful and it is so popular. It is everywhere. So the base e raised to the x, so the base e, basically e is a constant. So the e is approximately equals to 2.718. Of course, you can use more digits, but most people will just, when you talk about, hey, what is a base e equals to? Well, I would just say 2.7. Okay, but this is a lecture. I will just use two more decimals, 718. So if you just ask me, hey, you see me on the street, you ask me, hey, what's base e equals to? I would just say, well, think about that as a 2.7. Okay, so 2.7. So this is the graph of e to the x. So just like 2 to the x, so this is an increasing function, and then we have a horizontal asymptote at y equals to 0, and then the domain is all real numbers. So e 2.7 raised to some power, you can definitely choose any power you want, and then the graph is above the x-axis, so the range is y greater than 0. And then for the horizontal asymptote, so just like 2 to the x, as x goes to negative infinity, the graph is getting closer and closer to the x-axis, which is y equals to 0. So y equals to 0 is a horizontal asymptote. And once again, the graph of e to the x will never touch, go across the x-axis, because e 2.7 raised to whatever power you like, positive or negative, you will never get a 0. 2.7 times itself a few times, you will not get a 0, right? This is pretty much a pretty basic common sense. Let's take a look at the table value. So one yellow, one in pink. Let's take a look at the yellow. The yellow is, I would like to let x be greater than or equal to 0. So I pick x equals to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have e to the 0, e to the 1, e to the 2, e to the 3, e to the 4. And then I got these decimals, and then each decimal gives me a point, right? So if you want to know how to use your calculator to get the decimal, so here is how. So let's move on to the next page of my notes. So this is a graphing calculator, TI-84 plus CE. So to get the base e and then raise to some x, first you have to press the second key. Do you see that I circled the second key? So you have to press the second key, and then you have to press the ln key. So second ln, that gives you a base e and then raised to some power. So you see the cursor flashing on the power, right? Oh, in some calculator, calculator, not the TI-84, they will say exp. So this one, the exp means exponential, means base e raised to some power. In some calculator, they use exp means exponential, base e, all right? And then that means they are asking you to input a power next. Okay, and then sometimes they will just do this, so e, and then they will do that, e raised to some power. So this, do you see this little angle thing? That means raised to some power. And then that key is over here. But with the keys in TI-84s or 83, you won't really need that key. All right, so you press second, and then you press the ln key, and then you either input a positive or negative or a 0. So here, what if you make the e so big, so like e raised to a 10,000 power? So So e raised to 10,000 power, that means you have 2.7 raised to 10,000 power. So this is just equals to infinity. How come there is an error? There is an error, so the error is an overflow. What is overflow mean? Overflow means the result has many digits. The result is very long, has many digits. This calculator is not enough to hold that many digits, so that's why they give you an overflow message. That means, wow, the answer is so long, so big, I cannot even display that many numbers on the screen, so I'm sorry, I will just say that is an overflow. I cannot take that many digits, all right? And then e to the negative big number, so that means you have 1 divided by 2.7 raised to a very large power, so this is very close to 0. So that's why when x approaches to negative infinity, y approaches to 0, and this is your horizontal asymptote. And then if you want to see the graph, you have to press the key that is above the y, the second key, so you have to press the y equal key. So there is a y equal key right over there, so you have to press that key and then you input e raised to the x and then you will get a graph. So of course, if you want to graph e to the negative x, they will show you the other graph, which is what we are going to talk about next. So that's for the calculator part. So let's return to the previous page. So we just stop at the table value, so that take a look at here. So as x increases, y increases exponentially, right? So as x goes up, y goes to infinity. You can say y increases exponentially. What about negative x value? So let's say x equals to negative 2. So we have e to the negative 2. The negative brings the entire quantity to the denominator. So 1 divided by this denominator, that gives you a very small quotient. So when you do the check, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, these table values, so as x approaches to negative infinity, right? So this is x approaches to negative infinity, and then you can see that as x approaches to negative infinity, y approaches to 1. Y is getting so small, right? So y approaches to 0. So therefore, y equals to 0 is your horizontal asymptote, right? So for the negative, as you look all the way to the left-hand side of the graph, the curve is getting closer and closer to the x-axis, which is y equals to 0. So overall, this is what the graphs look like. So I have a y-intercept at 0, 1. So x is equals to 0, y is equals to 1, and then this is an increasing function that looks like this. So this is y equals to, or f of x equals to e to the x. All right, so what about e to the negative x? So what about this? What about y equals to e to the negative x? So this is just like thinking about y equals to 2 to the negative x, which brings you back to the previous video if you don't want to go back, which brings you to this graph. So that is a decreasing function, right? Another way to say this, if you learn function transformation before, so function, if you learn this before, function transformation. If you put a negative right next to x, that means you create a reflection on the y-axis. So that means instead of having the yellow curve, you have this. This is a reflection on the y-axis. Another way to picture this is you grab this tail and then you flip that to the other side. You grab this tail and then you flip that to the other side. Imagine that you have your right hand. So take out your right hand and then make sure your palm is facing the ceiling of your room. So you have your right hand up, your palm is facing the ceiling, right? So do we agree that at this point, your thumb is on the right hand side? You have your right hand, your palm is facing the ceiling. You have your right hand open and then your palm is facing the ceiling. So if what happens if you flip your hand? So go ahead and flip your hand. So now your palm is facing your table or your palm is facing the floor. Do we agree that your thumb is pointing to the left hand side? So when you do a flip, a reflection on the y-axis, now your thumb is pointing on the left hand side, and then before the reflection your palm is pointing the right hand side. So this is how you picture reflection on y-axis. Okay, so this is y equals to, or f of x equals to e to the negative x, and then for both functions, for both, let's use this color. For both function, what is the domain? The domain is x can be anything you want, and then the range, the curve is always above the x-axis, and then there is no vertical asymptote because x can be anything you want, and then the horizontal asymptote is y equals to 0, which is over here, y equals to 0. All right, so that is the end of this video. If you think my instruction is helpful and clear, give me a like, share this video on any social media, especially Facebook for me. If you are new to the channel, please take 2 seconds to click the red subscribe button down below. I will see you all, and I will talk to you all in the next one. Signing out.